Friday night lights in Charlotte are supposed to be harmless preseason football under a soft August sky, where the outcome barely registers and the box score fades into irrelevance by morning. It's the time when veterans relax in street clothes, rookies fight for the last spots on the roster, and coaches experiment without consequence. But for Shedeur Sanders, this night is no exhibition. It is a trial, stage dressed in the thin disguise of a meaningless game, yet brimming with consequence. The Cleveland Browns are handing him the keys to their offense, not because they've groomed him for it, but because circumstance has forced their hand. Pickett and Dylan Gabriel are sidelined. Joe Flacco sits out, and suddenly, Sanders is shoved into the spotlight of an NFL Network broadcast, with the nation's eyes and its sharpest tongues trained directly on him. On the surface, it could be painted as an opportunity, a lucky break for a young quarterback looking to prove himself, but peel back the veneer, and it starts to feel like a trap. Sanders has spent the entire training camp marooned at the bottom of the depth chart, flinging passes to practice squad hopefuls, and in some early sessions, even members of the equipment staff. He's taken no meaningful snaps with the starting offense, built no chemistry with its playmakers, and never been given the repetition to iron out the timing that separates competence from disaster. Now, with only a few days' notice, the Browns are setting him up against a Carolina. It's Panthers defense that smells blood in the water, and that's before factoring in his name. He is the son of Deion Sanders' football royalty, swagger incarnate, a man whose presence bends the media cycle to his will. For some, Shedeur is a promising heir to that legacy, a potential franchise quarterback in his own right. For others, he is a walking target, an opportunity to humble both father and son. In one decisive blow, in one evening, Sanders must not only prove that he belongs in the NFL, but also that he can carry the weight of a surname that comes with expectations, scrutiny, and for some resentment. His first task is as old as the position itself: command. The huddle. Not just play in it, not just repeat the words of the play call, but take ownership of the offense as if it were built for him. NFL players know within moments if a quarterback has that rare presence. It's in the cadence of his voice, the authority in his body language, the steadiness in his eyes when they scan the line before the snap. Sanders cannot afford to look like a substitute teacher hoping the class behaves. From the first play, he must project control. That means reading defensive fronts, adjusting protections on the fly, dictating the tempo, and, above all, refusing to let the clock or the moment overwhelm him. If the Browns expected to see a rattled rookie scrambling to keep up, the surest way to append that script is to run the offense like it's already his. The chemistry question is next, and it's a cruel one. All preseason, Sanders has been throwing to receivers who might be gone by September, practicing timing routes that will never appear in a real game. Yet on this night, he must forge instant trust with the actual playmakers. That trust is earned. In fractions of a second, the ball placed exactly where it's expected, in stride, without hesitation. If he can make that connection early, the excuses about needing more reps dissolve. In one night, he could close the gap between himself and the starters, turning an afterthought into a contender. Of course, Carolina won't make it easy. Even in preseason, defensive coordinators relish the chance to test a green quarterback, throwing exotic blitzes and coverage disguises at him like live grenades. Sanders will face pressure, not just physically, but mentally, recognizing pre-snap cues, sliding protection, and hitting the hot read before the pocket collapses. The Panthers have the personnel to confuse him: linebackers who blitz like safeties, corners who can vanish into coverage until the last heartbeat. But there's an opportunity hidden in the danger. Pressure, handled correctly, becomes a weapon. A perfectly timed screen that lets the rush overcommit. Quick strike on a blitz. Beater that turns a gamble into a touchdown. Even a deliberate throwaway can show maturity beyond his years. And if Sanders buys himself extra seconds with his legs, rolling out and keeping his eyes downfield, the defense will have to account for the threat of the scrambler wrinkle the Browns' offense hasn't had in years. Still, poise under fire is only half the battle. The other half is knowing when to take the shot. Sanders made his name at Colorado as a gunslinger, unafraid to thread passes through tight windows and launch deep balls that could swing a game. In the NFL, those instincts must be sharpened, not dulled. Against the Panthers, patience will be his ally. Defense will try to bait him, to lure him into throwing at shadows. If he resists the urge to force plays, if he takes the smart gains, and waits for the defense to make its mistake, he can show the Browns that his aggression is backed by discipline. No turnovers, no desperation throws into double coverage, just calculated strikes that keep the chains moving and the scoreboard changing. But even if he plays flawlessly, stat sheet won't tell the whole story. Leadership is the currency. That keeps a quarterback in the huddle, and it cannot be faked. Sanders enters this game as an outsider within his own locker room, treated as a depth piece rather than a leader. That perception can shift in 4 quarters, encouraging linemen after a sack, dapping up receivers after a dropped pass, keeping the sideline locked in when the score swings against them. These are the moments teammates remember, subtle acts that make them believe in a quarterback before the results ever show up on the scoreboard. In the NFL, leadership isn't given, it's seized. This night is not about a preseason win or loss. It is about rewriting the narrative. Since draft night, Sanders has been labeled overhyped, underprepared, a name more than a player. In this single game, he has the chance to challenge every word of that script. If he proves he can command the offense, connect with the starters, survive and exploit pressure, balance risk with discipline, and lead like a seasoned pro, the conversation in Cleveland changes overnight. Coaches will have to reevaluate. Teammates will look at him differently. Fans will start asking why he hasn't been given more. In the front office, the very people who may have quietly doubted the pick will have to admit that the problem isn't Sanders' readiness, but their willingness to see it. If he fails, the critics will have their sound bites ready before the game clock hits 0. But if he walks off that field with the poise of a starter and the respect of the huddle, Cleveland will have a quarterback dilemma they never planned for, and one they won't be able to ignore, NFL loves to say. Preseason doesn't matter. For Shedeur Sanders, it might just be the night that changes everything.